Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Snetterton. We've had a little bit of drizzle here, so the track conditions may well have dampened a little bit, but the spirits of the drivers remain very, very high. A familiar face on pole position, winning with the fastest lap yesterday, gives this man, Freddie Chinnix, a 17-point lead in the championship. Freddie, are you confident heading into this race you can maintain that points lead?
Yeah, I know what needs to be done to secure the championship. I'm happy in the slippery conditions, so hopefully we'll have a good race and see how it finishes.
Excellent stuff. With the inclement weather, have you had to change much with the setup that you had from yesterday?
No, it's very similar. We can just change our tyres to a newer set if it's a slipperier, so I've done that, so I'm ready for a bit more rain, if anything.
I think you may be out of luck on that one, but I'm sure there'll be some people rain dancing for you. Best of luck, Freddie. As maintained, he's looking to maintain or even extend that points gap, but right hot on his heels is Mark Jones and Jeff Newman. Now Jeff, starting from second position, is only 4 points behind Mark Jones and only 21 points behind Freddie. So then Jeff, good result yesterday. You looking to try and overthrow this one?
Yeah, I sincerely hope so. It's fantastic that we've got a wet track because it's like having a different track altogether. And so the odds are certainly all over the place at the moment. Let's see what happens.
Do you approach the track differently with the track conditions being a little bit different from yesterday?
Yeah, it's like going on to any track for the first time. There's always a bit of finding where the grip is, and then particularly in the wet, making sure I don't overstretch it in the braking area. Last thing any of us want to do is go off, because we'd just throw away so many points.
And with quite a lot on the line, you've got Mr. Jones there within points grabbing distance as well. Are you confident you can keep him behind?
To be honest with you, I haven't been following the championship table, so that's news to me. But we'll see what happens. We haven't really had much wet experience, so I don't know what our competitors are like in the wet, really.
Well, no better way to find out. Best of luck, Jeff.
Thanks very much.
And we'll now head to second place in the championship holder at the current moment, Mark Jones, on 174 points. That's assuming my maths is, of course, correct. Mark. So then, with the weather conditions changing, not everybody's happy about the slipperier conditions. How do you feel about them?
I'm quite happy about the rain. I'm happy when it's damp and a bit skittish. So, yeah, I'm quite happy it's raining.
Excellent stuff. Talk us through, from your perspective, how you feel your championship has gone.
Personally, great. Like podiumed every race. So, hopefully today I'll be able to do better than third for once. So.
Yeah, 22 points seems to be pretty much your spot on average, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
it's been good. So yeah, going to hope for a better result today than third for once. Hopefully try and get one first place. So
I'm sure it's well within your grasp. Best of luck, Mark. So we've got time for a couple more before the Caterham Academy Green Group are let loose. We'll have a chat with James Cook, or Cookie as the car is emblazoned. James, how are you feeling?
Not too bad. I was a bit disappointed after the race yesterday, starting P3, hoping for my first podium of the year, so fingers crossed today, eyes are only forwards, finish off the championship strong.
Good stuff, good stuff. Again, sort of looking at the results, generally fairly consistent, few points behind these guys, but you confident you can overhaul them here today in Snetterton?
Yeah, I've had the pace all weekend really, so I just need to put it into the result, and fingers crossed.
Best of luck, James. And we'll have time to have a chat with Mark Kendall, who currently sits in 5th in the championship at the moment, with the wonderfully pink accented number 35. Mark, how are you feeling ahead of today's race with a little bit of rain now down?
No problem at all. I don't think that's going to affect us at all. No, I think it's dry enough. Yeah.
Has there much changed on the car since yesterday?
Nothing at all. So hopefully I can put the same performance in I did yesterday. Yeah.
May your right foot be heavy, sir. Best of luck out there. The car's now being released, the Caterham Academy Green Group, heading to trackside. The weather may be a little bit cooler, but the racing will be just as hot. Back to you, Scott.
Yes, welcome back to those watching on the Caterham live stream to what is going to be quite an exciting moment, because we're now about to provisionally crown one of our 2 Caterham Academy champions today, which of course starting with the green group. So they're, of course, as Chris has been alluding to, heading out onto the grid for their final championship race of the season. And they're getting the board there from the marshals, and they're going to get 1 green flag lap, so they'll form up onto the grid. And Chris Hutchinson, who's still with me here in the commentary box, we're both looking forward to the real prospect of now quite an exciting title fight with the 2 championship contenders on the front row of the grid together, and quite a few connotations to what could or may not happen in terms of this championship battle. But essentially, it's one of those cases where, quite literally, in many cases, winner takes all.
Yep, there are many a connotation here, but actually, if there are situations where they can absolutely tie the championship without being able to be split. So I'm sure this is going to be a headache for the championship coordinators over there, as well as a headache for us to try and keep up with what's going on. But yeah, just basically, if we see Freddie Chiddicks win this race, then we will become the champion. Jeff Newman, I think, can win, but if Freddie is in second, then Jeff still needs things like the fastest lap. So keep an eye on the fastest lap. We get an extra point for that in Caterham racing, so that could be all crucial in this final round. Such is the performance of these leading drivers in the championship that they're actually going to have to finish in first or second to even start rescoring extra points as we run this drop score system. And for the first time, Academy have got 2 drop scores this season. And therefore, 2 worst results get dropped. But with Freddie and Jeff Newman, their kind of worst scores the scores to start improving, they're in the podiums. So they must be in those top spots before they even start improving their championship points.
Now, just looking through the connotations that I was worked out from Simon Lambert, who's the Chief Motorsport Officer for Caterham Motorsport yesterday. He sent me them via text last night, and so they've been crunching numbers and working out on the spreadsheets. They're working out for the green group the following connotations. So at this point in time, Freddie is 2 points ahead. And I'm quoting directly from the connotations he's sent me here. Freddie's 2 points ahead after drops, and is currently dropping a 3rd place, putting him in a very strong position. The connotation in terms of what needs to happen are as follows: if Jeff wins, so Jeff Newman wins, and he has also the fastest lap of the race, he is the champion. If Jeff wins, but Freddie is second and also gets the fastest lap of the race, Freddie is the champion. He's also put together the potential connotations for what could happen in this scenario. So if Jeff wins and Freddie is second, but Freddie doesn't get the fastest lap of the race, then they would potentially, and provisionally, and I stress the word provisionally, declare it a championship tie with 4 wins and 4 second places each. And because they only look through the count back on the results that they're not dropping, they're potentially saying it could be a joint championship, which I've never come across before in many cases, particularly in club racing. So again, that's all to be provisionally confirmed and decided, but let's work through the grid at least for the final race for the green group for the Caterham Academy for this year. So title contenders, Freddie Chiddicks and Jeff Newman on the front row together. Freddie Chiddicks on pole, Newman alongside in second. Mark Jones and James Cook start on the second row of the grid, followed by Mark Kendall and Robert Domain in 5th and 6th. Row 4 sees Paul Woodburn, who put up quite a valiant defensive effort but couldn't do any more than 7th place. Starts on row 4 alongside Ian Harris in 8th on the grid. And it's Chris Fraser starting in 9th, followed by Joe Priday, who rounds out the top 10. Then Philip Clark starts 11th alongside Oliver Hardick on the 6th row of the grid, followed by row 7, which sees the pairing of Rob Bain in 13th place, and then Richard Percy will then start in 14th position at this point. 15th place then goes to John Hood on the grid alongside Ian Summers, so those two will try and make some progress from the 8th row of the grid. Then row 9 sees Ian Bettis and Isla Lowe go next. And then the last couple of the cars on the grid will then form up the last couple of spots before we get racing underway for this last time as a champion in championship terms for the Caterham Academy Green Group. John Vincent and Mark Williams then come next on the 10th row. Theo Theato and Paul Castle then make up the 11th row of the grid. And
what are conditions going to be like out there, Scott? They look fairly dry from here. We've got sun near the commentary box, but we saw earlier that there was rain down the far end of the track that we weren't even aware of up this end. So I wonder what those conditions are going to be like for these drivers here. It certainly looks fine on the screens as we talk now.
So the car's weaving from side to side, trying to get a little bit of temperature into the circuit. It looks as though it's mostly dried out, but there are still 1 or 2 very lightly damp areas or slightly damp and greasy areas, so it's gotten much better than it was for the road sport guys earlier on, but it's still not completely dry. It's still, I'd say, about 90-95% dry. It's still a fraction of moisture on the circuit that might make it a tiny bit tricky in one or two corners.
With the issue being that if you're trying for an overtake, you're going to be on, you can see around here, we've still got really greasy conditions, and the grease will be in those places you want to try and use to get an overtake. So here it might well be follow single file is the best option, but the race situations don't always allow for that.
And this is the nightmare, isn't it? Essentially, we talked about it earlier on. Drivers always want it fully wet or fully dry. This is neither. It's more dry than wet, but there are still greasier and damp patches out there, which means that, and they're also on different parts of the circuit. So you can turn to one corner and it feels completely dry and you've got all the grip in the world. Turn to the next corner and it could be damp and you might get less grip level. So it really is going to change lap by lap, particularly if it carries on getting clearer and drier here at Snetterton, as the weather starts to improve throughout the late morning before we get into our last couple of races before lunch this afternoon. So we've still got this and 3 more races to go before we head to the lunch break, so plenty more racing action. So if you're watching either on Facebook or YouTube, either on the Caterham stream or on the BRSCC stream, do stay tuned, because of course there's lots more to come throughout the course of the day. Lots more Caterham action. Of course, that what should be quite a nail-biter National Formula 4 finale if you just watched the race. If you didn't watch that race earlier on and just join us from the Caterhams, if you do want to take an interest in that, then you might want to check the previous race we just had to see what some of the connotations there. But we focus once again back on Caterham racing with the 2 main contenders in the green group for the Caterham Academy this year. Freddie Chiddicks on the left in black and red on pole position. In blue and yellow on the right-hand side, his main contender, Jeff Newman. Essentially, it's a case of whoever finishes in front of which, and also with the potential of the fastest lap being a crucial point as well, will decide which way the fate of the title goes. It's always a nail-biter. It's been a very long season, but finally we provisionally look to crown off a Caterham champion. The red lights go on for the final time. The beloved cars Caterham Academy green group is a pretty equal start from the front row, but the better jump for the second phase of the start goes to Jeff Newman. He gets his nose in front and wins the charge. I think it was contact towards the back. Mark Kendall's hit the back of, I think, either Paul Woodman or, I didn't want to possibly say Freddie Chiddicks, I thought, but either way, they turned into the right-hander at Ritchie's for the first time, and Newman got the whole shot with a better start from the outside of the front row of the grid, but already down towards the Wilson hairpin. Everyone's getting a bit closer, a bit feisty already, making a big dive down the outside. Look to be the 15. That's James Cook, I think, who's trying to get around the outside if he could try and get through. Up through Wilson. Everyone's trying to keep out of everyone's way so far as they come up towards Palmer's for the first time. So a little bit of a frenetic start, but there was a bit of contact to one or two drivers. I think one of them quite riskily involved Freddie Chiddicks, who I think just about got away with a bit of a clout in the rear from Mark Kendall.
Yeah, I don't think either of the front drivers actually got away very well. Newman definitely bogged down, and Chiddicks did as well, but they have both managed to make their way out through the first couple of corners in that lead, and Chiddicks, like you say, maybe received a bit of a clout, but is up and running. So we have got the situation where Newman is now ahead of Chiddicks, and he was looking there to try and shake the toe, but I think that's a bit optimistic in these early phases. It's still absolutely nose to tail.
Out through Hamilton and on towards the mix, and now as they go down the outside, Freddie Chiddicks looks for the James Cook got in second place. For Chris was frantically pointing to the screen, let's try what was going on. So James Cook has now lost that second place back against Freddie Chiddicks, and now Newman continues to lead. It changed so quickly in the space of a couple of corners, but James Cook was very close there. That was Mark Jones in there in car number 2. He was battling there. He had right on his rear corner Mark Kendall, but the pair of them were attacking James Cook, who had just lost second place back into Freddie Chiddicks. So as it all goes off the Bentley straight, we can now see them stretch out a bit more, and there goes Chiddicks going down the outside with 2 championship contenders side by side into the complex, and early doors round the outside into Brundle. By the time they hit the brakes for Nelson, can he get it stopped just as he can? Just over the curb a little bit, but Freddie Chiddicks, ever daredevil, was skipping over the chicane there. I think that was Fraser, I think it was. I want to say Chris Fraser, I think it might have been. But Freddie Chiddicks back into the lead now, because that's where he needs to be, because of course the connotation is that if Freddie...
if Chiddicks wins this race, he will be the champion. Newman, doesn't matter if he finishes in second and even gets the fastest lap. He is trailing a couple of points coming into this round, and therefore he does need to... If Chiddicks wins the race, it's easy. That's done and dusted. But Newman now in second place with, looks like, is that Jones actually in third?
By the looks of it, yep. And so essentially what it means is the simple connotation is, as you say, if Freddie wins, he's champion. It's all what happens if Jeff wins, and whether or not Freddie does or doesn't get the fastest lap of the race, where it can change. So that's going to be the case. And also, if he doesn't get the fastest lap of the race, who does? Whether it's Jeff or somebody else. So we'll try and work that out as it carries on. But at the moment, again, it's only the end of the first lap. But if things stay as they are for the next 17 minutes, and it's Caterham racing, so they won't. So as it right now, Freddie Chiddix is in provisionally championship winning position, but he's got to hold on to this now for the next 17 minutes. So easy task, I'm sure, isn't it?
Yeah, no easy task at all. And we've already seen that there have been some really damp patches of the track, and those are going to come into play. As we see here, there's Mark Jones and James Cook there going absolutely into Agostini. But Chiddix sort of solidifying here. Jeff Newman really needs to make sure he is maximising. Yesterday, he bogged down off the start, if you remember, and that's what cost him. He had to fight all the way back. But by the time he got to the front, Chiddix had disappeared off. And at the moment, we're seeing that Chiddix maybe has that little bit of extra pace and commitment in these really damp conditions going under the Senna Brunellesses.
Yeah, you can see that he was trying to pull a small gap away and trying to just get himself a little bit too far out of the reach of the toes to try and make sure that he could try and pull away and get some clear laps in. As we turn in, looking a bit brighter now as the sun starts to probably peek through and the clouds are parting. So I imagine, given that it is dry now, we'll start to get the circuit drying a bit more now. There's a bit of wind in the air too, so that'll start to help make the circuit drier and a bit faster, give a bit more grip as the race goes on. Seeing Paul Woodman there being overtaken by Mark Kendall down the back straight. That was for 5th position. So Woodman down to 6th. But the leading quartet is Chiddix, Newman, and then it's James Cook, and then it's just behind them is Mark Jones, and then we've got Mark Kendall just ahead now of Paul Woodman. Ian Harris is into 7th place, Robert Domain 8th, Phil Clark in 9th, and Chris Fraser, who did take that very quick excursion over the grass on the first lap. He's just back in 10th position, trying to work his way through. Theo Theatas had a decent run. He's started towards the rear, but he's now currently in about 16th position now, making 15th. And he darts his way through past Richard Percy into the bomb hole.
I believe it was Theo who had the accident right at the end of last race, and if I'm correct, I might be misspeaking, but his car was all back together. That's why he was down there, sort of tail end of the field. But Freddie Chiddix there setting the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 23 in these conditions, and Newman there a little bit behind, not too far off, but not gaining on him at the moment. Crucially, there's a half-second gap there, which is enough. Woodman is having a great battle here with Kendall. He did actually make it past 2 cars on that previous lap, but lost out to Kendall a bit later in that lap. But he's now looks like he's made that position stick again, so he will be looking to hold on and make that move up. He drifted back a little bit yesterday, but looking to make that progress today.
So steady progress forward. We're trying to go the opposite direction this time. He wants to go from what was essentially a lead at one point back down to 7th. He wants to go from 7th up to a lead, but given the pace that the championship contenders are setting already, with the top 3 trying to pull away from Mark Jones at this point, that might not be, that's going to be a lot more easy said than done.
And look how Cook is closing in as well, Scott.
Yeah, he's definitely closing back ahead. He'll also spot, whilst you mentioned that, I think Paul has managed to get back into 5th position. I did see his white and red car flash through the shot in the background first, so he's got past Mark Kendall, back into P5, which is good to see. So he's up into a top 5 position. As we can see here, now it's starting to get a bit drier. Maybe this is coming a bit more advantage to him, because now he feels a bit more confident. He's managed to reel Freddie back in. He's not letting him get away. He's keeping him just on a leash, so to speak, just keeping him just in touching distance to try and make sure that he's in there to try and make an attack as and when he gets there in the final couple of laps when he gets there. So
there's something sensible, isn't there, about taking a little bit of caution in those first opening laps when you really don't know what's going to be under your tyres as you're heading into all these corners, and that gap between those top 3 is now really coming down. And obviously Cook there in 3rd place can act as interference. So he's been involved with these battles all the way through the year, and so he could now throw caution to the wind, shove it down the inside, knowing that it really doesn't matter for him. But these two, Jeff Newman definitely doesn't want that to happen. Jeff needs to finish in the lead of this race to win the championship. Anything else, he doesn't gain any more points, and Chiddix will win it.
Absolutely, and I think James Cook is in there in 3rd place purely there essentially for his own gains in a nice possible way. He doesn't care about the championship. He's there simply if he wants to go for the win or 2nd place. Arguably, he's more than entitled to go for it because nothing's stopping him from battling with them, because even though they're in a championship fight, he's not. It doesn't matter to him to a certain extent. He can race how he wants and get the results that he wants to get. So he's simply just able to go out there and race on his own. He could be literally the hypothetical cat amongst the Caterham pigeons.
Looks like his best result so far this year has been 4th, so he's already in his best result of the year, and he can see the win just in front of him, and why not? Let's go for that.
Fastest lap of the race once again to Freddie Chiddick, but the lap time gap was only a few hundredths of a second, so it is pretty much evenly matched between the two. And there goes car 28. That was John Vincent going for a spin at the bomb hole, and that's a key example. It's still damp down there at the bomb hole. Go for a spin also is either low in car 4. That's the crucial bit. It might be dry at this point of the circuit, it's almost like Spa-Francorchamps, dry at one part of the circuit, but damp and slippery at the other part of the bomb hole. That could be crucial, particularly if these two come across it and they're battling for the win side by side.
And wherever he joins that circuit, he's going to be bringing some of that wet and damp and mud onto the racing line, and that can often be quite a shock when you're driving around and suddenly you find some wet line where there isn't any or hasn't been on the previous lap. You've got to keep all this in mind when you're driving around.
So every single lap, the time they go through there, will be pretty much a venture into the unknown, and whether or not that might play any connotations, whether or not we're sort of loosely predicting the future in terms of what might happen, but there's still 11 3/4 minutes to go in this championship final round of the Love Cars Caterham Academy Green Group. It is between these two on screen, the top two in the race and in the championship. Freddie Chiddick, if he stays where he is, as he is right now, in the lead with the fastest lap, he is the provisional champion. If either Jeff wins, if Jeff wins and he still has fastest lap, he's still champion. Jeff needs to win and get the fastest lap of the race, stand any chance of being able to take the title from Freddie.
Whilst we've got Chiddick with the fastest lap so far, he's had that for the last 2 laps, but Jeff has absolutely caught up with him on this lap. So you've got to imagine that Jeff will get that fastest lap this time round, and that again, it just twists that. So Freddie is clinging on to that fastest lap, but the gap has reduced. It was just over half a second as we crossed the line last time out, and it is definitely not half a second now.
No, it looks a lot closer than that visibly, so he'll have to try and close that back down as much as he can. And they're coming up to the point of the circuit where it's caught a couple of drivers out. Whilst we've been looking at, there has been a bit of a switch around between that scrap that was going on for 5th, 6th and 7th. So now Kendall is ahead of Woodman, and also Woodman's dropped behind Ian Harris. So it's now Kendall 5th, Harris 6th and Woodman 7th. So that will update itself when they go through the timing beam on the start and finish straight again. Across the line will go the 2 leaders. The gap has come out a fraction, about another 10th or so, but we'll look at the lap times and see if they're very comparable, or if Newman sets a new fastest lap of the race, which he does. So good spot on that one. But
James
again,
Cook takes it.
But he gets immediately then stolen by James Cook, who again, he's more entitled to do that. Essentially, he has no place part at all in his championship battle. He's out there for his own gains and for himself, and so he should be, because he's in his own fight. Speaking of fights, here we go. The 2 championship contenders were wheel to wheel and side by side. They were moving around towards Wilson, but Jeff Newman, who we have seen has gotten a bit impatient at times, shall we say, throughout the season, just needs to keep a cool head and not make any moves that might possibly take away his championship chances just like that. He needs to be very careful not to make any moves that could compromise the integrity of his championship chances.
10 minutes left, so there's plenty of time left to he's caught back up there. The gap's definitely that great, but he certainly now wants to start interfering with Freddie and really get in his mirrors, which you can see he's doing. He wants to make it an uncomfortable position. You definitely don't want to make it nice and smooth at this point of the race, especially with Cook there, who could act, I'll say, as adding against that barrier, the extra point difference, which is going to be all crucial in this situation. But at the moment, Freddie doing everything he needs to do, which is calmly defending his line. He is using every bit of the track. I've noticed he's using the curbs, even in these damp conditions. They can be really, difficult to use, but he is absolutely using every bit of that track. And we see all these battles sort of further back down the field, whilst the championship is obviously in a balance here. There's battles, as we always say in the academy, all the way down the field, and it's great to see. Yeah,
that was a scrap we were looking at towards the bottom of the top 10. That was Philip Clark, Chris Fraser in there, Paul Castle, and not too far away from them also was the 73 car, which was Mark Williams. Mark Williams, in fact, had a decent run up the order in the first half of this race. He started in 20th place, he's been up 8 places into 12th, so good drive from Mark so far, so getting up as high as that as the quartet makes its way through. There is Mark, good drive from him. 8 places already.
He's a firm sort of middle championship driver. He just had some, I don't think he finished the race yesterday, so that's why he started at the back, and he is now using his extra speed and experience there to move back into that midfield.
Oh, actually, speaking of moving, move for the lead. Into the lead goes for Jeff Newman. Now, if he can make that happen and pull away and set the fastest lap of the race, he will then put himself into championship winning contention. At the moment, the fastest lap of the race. Now, this is interesting because it now puts that situation, if I'm correct, we are in a situation where Jeff, if it stays as it was, Jeff would win Freddie's second, but they don't have the fastest lap of the race. This currently at the moment puts them in a tie.
It does. This is absolutely tight, and James Cook again takes that fastest lap.
But just fractions before that, Jeff Newman did take it. It was a 2:19.9, then James Cook popped in a 2:19.6. So this literally is changing every single lap and every corner.
If Cook gets by Chiddix as well, that's the equivalent position, and therefore Newman will win it. So Chiddix definitely still is not comfortable. He's got that little bit of a pointer's advantage coming in here. But as the situation sits now with Newman out front, these scores and the championship are absolutely level between the two. It is not possible to split them.
Yeah. So that essentially it could potentially be facing the prospect of literally crowning joint champions. That's not official, but we need to obviously work that out with the definite post scores and confirm that after the race. We always say it's provisional because, of course, literally anything can happen at any point. Do you think it goes for a dive down the outside? But Newman holds firm on the inside line, and ultimately Jeff needs to try and... what he needs to do is he needs to try and pull away from these two, but the fact that he's giving a toe to both of them isn't helping his cause and trying to get the fastest lap of the race. And essentially, and the ironic thing is, James Cook isn't in the championship hunt, but he kind of is in some cases because he could be a catalyst in what happens up the inside and inside of Oggies. Goes Freddie Chiddix to try and change the context of the championship connotations. Up the inside he goes. Newman doesn't want to give it up and has to take 2 bites at the apex and has to slot into second place. Now he's under big pressure from James Cook. This now puts it back into Freddie Chiddix's favour because he's in front. He will win. James Cook is in that slipstream, gets the double toe from both Newman and then from Chiddix. Newman moves across, has to be careful. All three abreast on the run towards the complex. This might not work out for the championship. Newman sweeps across as James Cook gets back in the line. Run down the inside for Brundle, and can he get stopped for Nelson into the left right-hander? Yes, he can. So Newman gets back in front. But again, we're back in that scenario once more, where it's dead level again for the championship.
All change, all different as they both get onto the damp square and really losing the rear end there. Jeff actually had to come out the throttle, which has given Chiddix a little look up the inside of Coram there, but he got not able to make it stick. But yeah, they're absolutely making this very dramatic for us. It's brilliant stuff to watch, and I hope everyone's enjoying this on the streams as well. But yeah, he's got a tiny bit of a gap here now, but it's impossible to defend unless Chiddix does make a mistake or Cook does start overtaking. I think you'll that little gap there he's got to be a bit cautious of.
So still dead level for the championship, just about 5 minutes to go, and it is now all to play for between them. Lap time wise, almost again virtually identical, 2:20.8 for both Newman and Chiddix, but Newman was a fraction faster. Into the right-hander, through Riches again, and Freddie Chiddix carries lots of speed. See bits of rubber just pinging off the tyres of these, they've on the Academy tyres of these cars, and again Chiddix looks to the outside line. Newman holds firm on the inside line to defend. Now they get the power down on the exit of the Wilson hairpin. Now the short straight towards Palmer. Who can change gear the fastest? Who can get back on the power the quickest? Jeff Newman again just holding the car in the middle of the road. They turn through a left-hander at Palmer's. 5 minutes to go to the side he wins the Academy Championship. If anyone wins it, because we could have a tie, could go one way or the other. 5 minutes to decide what the fate of this championship's going to be, and there's still another Academy title to try and sort out in a couple of races' time.
Chiddix really late on the brakes there into Agostini. Last 5 minutes of their championship year. Brilliant stuff so far. We've got a bit of debris on the track there, which they all managed to avoid. I can't state how important Cook could be in this championship decider. Newman still managing to hold on, but we've got the whole of the Bentley straight after we've got around Oggies and Wilson to still hold on in there. It's going to be all down to the wire, this.
They turn in through Oggies once more. 4.5 minutes on the clock. I think they're going to get probably 2 more. That's just goosebumps on Chrissy's arm. That's how tense it is here as they come up to the right-hander. Slightly different lines from the two leaders as they come onto the onto the straight. But the unfortunate thing for Jeff is he's giving Freddie the toe. He darts out to the outside line, and we just cut away to have a look at a battle here going on between the 80 and the 3. That's Harder can Bayless battling over 14th, 15th place, but arguably, all respect to the back markers, we need to see what's going on with the leaders. Thank you, Director. So it's now going to be Chiddix and Newman first and second, and James Cook is all over the back end for Newman to go for second place. Looks up the inside, can't get the traction off the corner, and Newman stays in second. So Chiddix back in front, back in a championship position, and now if Jeff Newman can't get back into his tail, it could be a chance for Freddie to pull away and possibly give him advantage for the title.
We've got a bit of tactics to think about now, though. Those toe is so powerful, as we've seen all weekend, and we'll continue to see in this racing. Newman immediately back on the back through Coram. They're really pushing the car. You can see the car's absolutely on the edge of grip, but he's in a perfect toe scenario again. So I think we will see the lead change again. And yeah, we've got to get the tactics now. We've got 3.5 minutes left. Where do you want to be? Do you have enough speed coming out that final corner to get over the line? He didn't do it that time. Freddie Chiddix also takes the fastest lap, crucial at this stage with 3 minutes to go now.
Yeah, so again, the fact that he wins and takes the fastest lap of the race essentially does provisionally guarantee the title for Freddie Chiddix at this point in time. But Newman again, if he wants to get it, he needs to do exactly the same that Freddie's doing now. Get the fastest lap back and get the lead back if he can. He goes down the outside into the hairpin at Wilson, and James Twick sticks his nose up the inside to try and take second place as well. But Newman is back in there too. So less than 3 minutes to go. Still no guarantee who's going to win this, because even though Freddie has the lead in the fastest lap, it could all change at the drop of a hat. This could be so close as they come up through Palmer's for the, I think possibly the penultimate, the penultimate time. One more lap after this, one more lap to settle the title. Down to the outside, looking to the right-hand side goes Newman. Chinnix puts the car right down the middle of the road to try and hold on to the position, but Newman will have the better line out of the corner, arguably, given the fact that he's taken the racing line. They're dropping Cook a little bit, but not enough to keep him to completely take him out of being a factor in this title race as they come up through the left-hander at Hamilton.
And just to reiterate, with Chinnix having that fastest lap, it doesn't matter at the moment if Newman overtakes him, he would still win the championship based on that fastest lap. Provisionally, we have to say that because there are always things like stewards and other bits and bobs that we have to take into account. But yeah, Chinnix at the moment, with that fastest lap, crucial. Can Newman get that back?
Well, if he's in the toe of Freddie, he has been for the whole lap, it might well give him a good chance here, and you're going to get a chance down the back straight, which Freddie has no choice to give him the toe. Down the outside looks Jeff as he goes in towards Brendan Nelson. The two titles attendants again, side by side under the bridge. Round the outside goes Newman. He's quite good at that move round the outside at Brendan Nelson. Gets it stuck. Can he get the car anchored up, which he does over the curb? And so the pace-wise, he looks pretty decent. And again, his car, I've always noticed how it looks like either it's just how it's set up or how he drives it. His car's very good off the corners, on the slower corners it seems. Got a big twitch of oversteer though through the apex of the bomb hole where there was that damp patch again. And looking back up the inside through the inside of Coram, there was Chinnix, but couldn't quite make the move stick. They're going to come on to the last lap of the season. It all comes down to this. If Newman can get the fast lap of the race on this lap or the last one and win the race, he's champion. If he can't get the fastest lap but still wins and Freddie gets it, he's champion. If neither of them get the fast lap of the race and it stays like this, it's a tie. There's possible 3 or 4 different choices to work this. No new fast laps this time, but it was a personal best for Newman, so he's getting closer to it, and that fast lap was pretty strong. Up the inside gets Chinnix to get the lead back again. That 218.9 is pretty strong, so this is going to have to be for Jeff. He needs to make it, not only take the win, but the mother of all last laps to try and get this done. It's advantage Chinnix, but it's not over by any stretch of the imagination on this last tour of the 300 circuit.
Yeah, one more lap to decide this. Newman has to get the win, but he also has to engineer the fastest lap at the same time. All this racing all throughout this season, it all comes down to this. That one fastest lap could have been the absolute pivotal moment. We've got back marker also coming into play. Will they be caught? Is that Isla maybe being caught by the end of this race? And again, that could come to play because if Cook, who is still very much in this battle, if he puts his car in between, then it throws everything up in the air again.
Newman tried to make a tighter line and tried to dive into the hairpin, but couldn't make it stick, and now he's going to put himself alongside, weaving one way, then the other. Chinnix driving straight down the middle of the road to say, not on your life, sunshine, it's not going to happen. Down through Hamilton's, up towards Oggy's, about half a lap to go. They're putting a lap on Isla Low in the 4. She was the one that had the spin, along with John Vincent up at the bomb hole. Just a few corners of the championship to go. Up through the right-hander at Williams, onto the Bentley straight. One last chance to try and get past. The fastest lap might be gone, but all he can do now is just try and go for the win and just hope that it might work out in his favour. Down the Bentley straight, in the slipstream. Which way does he go? Inside or outside? He goes outside. Doubts at the last minute. James Cook watches on, has a grandstand seat for this too. The two championship contenders side by side, down towards Brendan Nelson. Round the outside will look Jeff Newman, but I think also Freddie will probably know if he's got the fastest lap of the race. We might not even know that at this point in time. He won't. So essentially, all he can do is drive as hard as he can. Whether he might think that's a possible move, but he's lost it or not, or if they're on tide, we'll have to wait and see. Into the bomb hole for the final time. Newman keeps on pushing as hard as he dares. He's got a small gap now to Chinnix. Into corner for the final time. All we can do now is look and see. Basically, we wait till the top 3 cross the line. Then we can declare who the champion potentially is. Into the complex, into Murray for the final time. Newman fires it out. Chinnix follows him through. The camera's focused on Newman. They come up to the line. There's no question who we're going to tell till they all cross the line. Come up to the checkered flag. Jeff Newman will win the final race of the season. It's going to be Newman that wins, Chinnix second, and it's going to be James Wicking third. Newman got it on the line! Jeff Newman got the fastest lap on the line, he wins, and we think by that connotation, that mega final lap potentially might have just provisionally given him the 2021 Love Cars Caterham Academy Green Group title. What a storming final lap. 2 minutes 18.639 for 1.9. He beat Chinnix's fastest lap by 0.2 of a second. Storming final lap.
Unbelievable at the end there.
Incredible.
I was just about to say to you, Scott, he absolutely nailed those last 3 corners, and I was wondering, was that possible? Absolutely brilliant. If provisional results at the moment, but if that really has come down to that last lap of the last race of the last, it's just absolutely brilliant. I made up for Jeff as well. I know he started this year and he hadn't had any experience, and he's really worked at it. So what a storming race there. But Chiddix as well, brilliant stuff all year from him. And breath.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. And it all came down to one single lap.
0.2 of a second.
One single lap. And I thought at one point it was the thing I thought he might not have got it was just coming out of Wilson. He was darting around a bit behind Chiddix at that point, but it looks as though it was just the toe. Maybe it was just the toe that he got down the straights, but he was staying there and he was weaving around, Freddie. It wasn't as if he stuck there right in his slipstream. He was weaving side to side. Whether that was the evident point that he was pushing as hard as he dared, but even so,
he nailed that final sector. That's been the damp sector all the time, and they finally made it onto the dry bit of the track, and it absolutely was enough to take that 0.2.
And we said his car was so strong off the corners, it was so good out of it. The way his car just, as you say, went through the bomb hole, and he got that couple of tenths gap, and I think that's what got it. Just through the bomb hole, through corner, through Morris, the way he just got the car off the corner of that last sequence every single time, just absolutely nailed it. What a stunning finish. And that's one Academy group done. We've still got one more to go. Unbelievable stuff. So we think, based on the chartations that we've got, on the calculations that the potential ways it could be settled, by the process of Jeff winning and miraculously stealing the win on the fastest lap of the race on the final lap, by that, we go by the fact that on that basis, provisionally, and we can't stress that enough, provisionally, Jeff, we think, is the champion by a single point.
Unbelievable.
Fantastic stuff. And there's still one more of these to go. We've still got white group to settle. Right, here's the result then. Jeff Newman gets the win and stunningly gets the fastest lap of the race to essentially, we think, provisionally crown him green group champion for 2021. Freddie Chiddix is in second place. James Cook is third. He played a great part in that. That's his best result of the season with third place. Mark Jones fourth, Paul Woodman fifth. It's Kendall, Domain, Harris, Fraser and Williams rounds out the top 10. Then Philip Clark, Paul Castle, Joe Priday, Oliver Hardick, Rob Bain, John Hood, Richard Percy, Ian Summers and Ian Bettis and John Vincent round out the top 10. And then top 20, if you give me. And then we have Isla Lowe, the only finisher, and Theo Theato, who looks like he dropped out towards the end, and unfortunately he did not make the finish. Take a breath. There's more Caterham racing action coming up. We've got the Motor Caterham 7270R Championship coming up next, but provisionally we think congratulations to Jeff Newman, who provisionally appears to be the 2021 Love Cars Caterham Academy Green Group Champion. Wow.